Hello, it's Bethany. I am a lower elementary Montessori teacher, and today I am going to go through the different aspects of the language, math, and cultural materials. So we're going to start here first with something they see in the early childhood, which are the metal insets. The metal insets are a pre-writing work that do look like shapes. Here's an example of the quatrefoil one. So the first thing they do is they take their pencil and trace around the outside of the pink part, which they take out the blue part. And then the next time they take the blue part out and trace that on a piece of paper and go around it, learning to hold that pencil grip. And then the next time they can take their pencil back and forth in the pink part, and it shows them how to have that pencil grip and the pre-writing to make lines and different things, because they start to learn how to write and read with the sandpaper letters. So the sandpaper letters, everybody teaches them in a different order, I believe. At the school I am at, they start with MAS, ETC, OP, and then different different letters from there. But in Montessori, we start with the letter sounds because when you are reading, you sound out the word, you don't say the letter name. And after the letter sound, then after the letter sound, they learn the names. There's also blend and also cursive sandpaper letters. After that, they look at the movable alphabet where they could take pictures and write words with the pictures or try to write their own sentences. And even if the work is incorrect, um, they most teachers would not correct them the first time in early childhood because they're learning how to just the sounds and trying it for themselves. So it's, you know, they're proud of their work, so we don't want to change it right away. But the second or third time they see the same mistake, the teacher will show how to change that. And now we have a reading, a reading of sorts. So everyone knows that Montessori came from Italy, and so they obviously have a different language than we have in English. So how did they change it to be the English version? Um, One way is with the pink, blue, and green series. The pink series words are short vowel words. The blue series words are um, blends, like beginning blends, ending blends with the consonants, and then the green series are the vowel blends. We each one has rhyming, picture words and matching, individual word cards. There's the vowel tree, um, matching the missing letters, um, word lists, spelling cards, a bunch of different materials for each one. We also use the Washika reading, which is basically like the pink, blue, and green, but it just separates them better and hones in on each um, blend or vowel blend or word blend a little bit better without it just being all jumbled in the words. And then my favorite language, the grammar symbols. So what the grammar symbols are, as you can see, there's some sentences here, and the students put the symbols over the words so that they can see how a sentence is formed and also what part of speech it is. So you'll see a lot in Montessori, it's very color coded. So this is one of the color coded works where a article is always a small light blue triangle, an adjective is a medium dark blue triangle, and a noun is a large black triangle, and then a verb is a large red circle, a pronoun is a purple triangle, a preposition is a green bridge, an adverb is a small orange circle, a conjunction is a pink rectangle, and an interjection is a gold keyhole. Some people turn it upside down and make it look like an interjection. I've always seen it as this way, and that's the way I kind of prefer, but some people have it differently. And then there's also advanced grammar symbols that are mostly for upper elementary, but I like the symbols so much that I will show the third year so they're a little bit prepared going into upper elementary. I have them I made symbolizing cards you could get down in a link below, but the kids really like doing those. There's also um, like noun and adjective works, adverbs and verb works. And there's a thing called the grammar boxes. And since in Italy they put the adjective after the noun in like the noun family type of thing. That's how it's laid out. And also these are like tan and dark brown colors, and it throws the students off a little bit. So I don't necessarily like using the grammar boxes, but people do. And I think that Washika has different grammar boxes that are also could be used that have the more updated color coding. And then this is word study. These are just a few you see here. You see contractions, alphabetizing synonyms, compound words, syllables, but there's also antonyms, compound words, contractions, apostrophes, homonyms, homographs, homophones, all that stuff, suffixes, prefixes, different things like that. And as you can see, it's laying out the word cards. Now we're going to talk about the math. So with the math, um, I'll mention this first because I don't talk about the sensorial materials here, but that is a big part of early childhood because they learn through their senses. But this is one of the sensorial materials that physically shows a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And what they do is they just match the little pieces together. It's an amazing work. Um, and also a sensorial material are the red rods. But then the next material that look like the red rods are the red and blue rods. So one is red, one is blue, one is red, one is blue, one is red, one is blue from 1 to 9. It's a very interesting work. And that shows the beginnings of counting 1 to 9. And then the next one to learn the concept of zero is the spindle boxes. The spindles are just wooden sticks that are placed into a container. So one would have one, two would have two, but then there's the first box, which is zero. So it shows them zero means nothing, right? So then we have the colored beads. Here is another color-coded system. So one bead is always red, 2 is green, 3 is pink, 4 is yellow, 5 is light blue, 6 is purple, 7 is white, 8 is brown, 9 is dark blue, and 10 is gold. They also have, so they learn the numbers like this, but they also have a hanging teen board that looks like this, but this one is the laying down teen board where they have a 10 bead and a 1 to physically show 11, physically show 12. So they see it and they can physically count 17 because how they also start to count after the T numbers is there's another work like this that's a 10 board. So they have the 10 numbers here. So this is still 1, but this would be 2, 3, 4, 5. So they could lay out like 3 tens and a 5 for 35, that type of thing. 8 tens for 83, 8 tens and a 3 bead. And then they have the short and long bead chains, which are like skip counting where they lay out, or just counting, it goes all the way from 0 to 1,000. And then, of course, they have the 100 board. The 100 board is where they learn to count 1 to 100, and they do these works multiple times, so they vary. Especially in early childhood, repetition is key, and they love to repeat works because they're taking in all that knowledge. So then, here's the next thing are the golden beads. So with the golden beads, they have the 1 is 1 golden bead, the unit bead, the 2, excuse me, the 10 is a 10 bar, the 100 is 100 square, and the 1,000 is 1,000 cube. So there's physically that many beads. So I realize I'm missing a 10 bead here. So we have 9 ones and then 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and then 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, and then 1,000, 2,000. And there's physically 2,569 beads here. And what you will notice is a color system here as well. So the ones place is always green. The tens place is always blue. The hundreds place is always red. And then the thousands repeats with green because the 10,000s is blue and the 100,000s is red. And you will see that go to the next work. Here is a bead box full of the colored beads because they use these colored beads to do addition, multiplication. And what I didn't mention here with the golden beads is the golden beads are not only used to build numbers, but they're used to solve addition with and without carrying, subtraction with and without borrowing, multiplication equations and division equations and Decurion division and all of that, starting in the thousands place because Montessori starts in the thousands place. So they do those large equations on this work concretely, and then it gets a little bit abstract with the stamp game, which you see the color code here, green, blue, red, green, and they lay out the numbers and can do all the ones I've listed with the golden beads for the stamp game. But how do they learn the addition facts? The addition facts, they use the colored beads to do. They use the finger chart, they use the addition strip board. And for example, so this is 6 and 2. So they don't have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They could just say 6, 7, 8, which is also what this is trying to get them to do because the blue doesn't have lines, but the red does. So they say 7, 8, 9, 10. Plus they have the answer up here. And so there are some additions. We also do greater than, less than, different things with the beads. And then we also have the dot game. It's hard to see up here, but here's the dot game paper where they add more than 2,000 digit numbers together. I was always told that was a second grade work, but it is seen in the early childhood. And all this stuff is also seen in early childhood because they want to know what things are, because we also use it in lower elementary to explain why things are the way they are, because the big question in lower elementary is why. Explain to me why. And this all physically shows up why before they move to abstraction, of course. Now, the next one is subtraction. And for some reason, there are a lot less subtraction works than all the rest of the works, which is just interesting to notice. This is the subtraction snake game. There's also an addition snake game. This is a small bead frame, again, with that same color pattern. And they could do addition and subtraction and multiplication on this. And then, of course, the finger chart. So there are some subtraction works. And then multiplication has quite a few works because not only they can use the golden beads, they can use the stamp game, but there's also 4 other works they can do. For multiplication facts, they lay out the beads, they do the finger chart. But here's the checker game. The checkerboard. And the checkerboard does multiplication equations all the way to for 4-digit numbers times 4-digit numbers. It's very cool because you know how you add the 0 to when you start to add the different answers. They move the beads down, so it shows them that there's not like you don't put anything here because it's a 0. And this one also, the large bead frame also explains the 0 concept very well when you're doing multiplication with a when you end up adding. So like 8,753 times 23. And you have to add that 0 for the 20s place. And then the banker's game, which would take 3 rugs to lay out. So I did not lay that out, but it's a massive layout work that is a collaborative work because there's a banker, a clerk, different people, an annotator, different things like that with that one. And then this is one that they get to the least probably because by the time they do all of this, they have a good understanding. But this one just shows them how to do the same equations they've been learning with this, but more abstractly. But by the time they do this, they kind of catch on to the abstraction without having to get to that. But I will still show it to them. And of course, they have the multiplication chart. And I'll also mention too, if you've noticed, addition has like a red color, subtraction is green, multiplication is blue. Is yellow, and then division is blue because here are the division facts. Oops, division works. I can't really get a good picture. Sorry, it's so blurry. I should have just taken pictures of these and not videos, especially so quickly is the issue here. And so this is the test tube division. They do the division bead board. There's also multiplication bead board where they lay out physically all the beads. There's thread beads or there's beads for where they lay it out. And then there's division beads where they lay it out, the division finger chart. But this is this, and they could also do division with the stamp game. But the test tube is a great work for the 3rd years. They could also see it in kindergarten as well. And then we also do time, money, measurement works, of course, and fractions, which are part of. And then this is just an upper elementary decimal checkerboard. And then here is one of the most exciting things, going kind of back to multiplication. This is called the decanomial layout. This one laid out here is specifically the angular layout, which is okay. And I laid it out this way on purpose so I could show you something. But the real thing here is that there's also a horizontal and vertical layout where they lay out 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 beads, and they're usually in lines. But I laid it out angularly. I laid it out in an angular layout, sorry. Um, and because if you look down, when you do this with the kids, they notice, wait, that spine is all squares of numbers. So they're all squares. But wait, if you take this pile and this pile, it also makes a square. And this pile and this pile, it also makes a square. And that happens all the way down. It's so fascinating. And then they're all squares. But what do all those squares turn into? What are four squares turn into? That turns into a cube. So you end up changing them all into a cube, which then makes the pink tower that they saw in early childhood. It's a nice like come back to work, the full circle work. But I show you the angular layout because the bead cabinet is actually the angular layout if you see it. Yes, and there's the squares. Up here are the cubes. It's just so magical. One of the best things. But these are also the other bead chains that they lay out to learn to count from 1 to 1,000. Um, and then of course we have geometry. And what's interesting is, so we start with the fundamental concepts of geometry, so point, line, plane, and solid, which are the golden beads. And I've had one student in all my years of teaching that has made that connection where the point is the gold bead, the line is the 10 bar, the plane or the surface is the 100 square, and then the cube is the 1,000 cube. It's so cool. But then we start, the red ones are the line work. So we do straight and curved lines, parts of the line with the endpoints, line segment, ray, origin. And then we have the different lines, so divergent, or excuse me, horizontal, um, vertical and oblique, and then it goes to convergent, divergent, intersecting lines, different lines like that. And here we have, it kind of looks like the metal insets, but they're squares, triangles, polygons, curved figures, closed figures, quadrilaterals, and triangles by sides, and angles and rectangles. So we do the triangles by sides. So equilateral, isosceles, and scalene, and then the sides by angles, right angle, acute, and obtuse angles. And then we have the polygons, the quadrilateral works, and then they do the angles. So parts of the angles, types of angles is what you see here. And then congruent angles and things like that. And then they also learn how to solve for those angles, which is really cool, like the degrees and everything. And then the last one is parts of the circle, which is like the third grade work. There we go. You did all the geometry work now. Parts of the circle, we do radius, diameter, circumference. There's a bunch of different different parts of the circle. And then they of course see this one in early childhood plus this one, all the shapes in this drawer, but this is the geometric solids. We do protractors. And then the stick box where they can create all those, and the blue squares. And there's also some works that are also geometry / sensorial materials in the lower, excuse me, in the early childhood. And now we're on to cultural works. So I obviously start with the first great lesson, which is the coming of the universe, the Big Bang. We talk about how there's different stories, but this is the one we're learning about today. And there's a balloon pop, and I mist them with water for the cooling of the earth. We talk about solid, liquid, gas. But then the next one is the timeline of life, where I'll show you here the second grade lesson, the coming of life. And then the next one, because that one starts at the end with the humans. So the next one is learning about the 3 things that make us human, which are love, our brain, and thumbs. And then we do the language great lesson, which I always like to make a cave out of chicken wire and cover it in paper so they can practice drawing like it's a cave, communication for the early writing. And then the math great lesson, there's also a geometry great lessons of sorts. That's also very interesting. And then here's the timeline, my favorite timeline, and then the black strip goes with that coming of humans because it's this long strip, and at the very end there's a red or white line that shows the time, or they're trying to show the time that humans have been on Earth because in all of the existence of the world and everything, humans have been here for no time at all, really. We take up a small portion of this time, and that's what we're trying to show. And then the geography works. Also with history, I'll mention really quick, is that we do spiritual and material needs, and we also do those through the ages. So what like Egyptians, Renaissance, Middle Ages needs, what they needed is different than what we needed, but it's really, they're all the same needs and all the same material and spiritual needs. It's just they had a different need, like a different way of showing that need or representing that need with different money or different food or different clothing. So we go through different transportation. So we go through all of those in that through the different ages. And so now we have geography, which is early childhood starts with that sandpaper globe. And then it gets into a color-coded system with the different continents. And then we do each continent in sections where we do the maps, the plants, the animals, the flags, research about the continents, different cultural activities with them, like maybe they have special food or dancing or things like that. And then also in geography, we have parts of the river, mountain, earth, different landforms. This is a early childhood land and water form. And then for botany and zoology, I like to do one botany, one zoology back and forth each week. But all the rest I do one history, one science, and one geography, and then botany, zoology is back and forth. So we have leaves, there's leaves, plants, flowers, seeds, and roots for the plants. And then we go through all the vertebrates and invertebrates. So the five vertebrates and then all the invertebrates. And what I tell parents, because in first grade they do the parts of, the second grade they do the type of, and the third grade they do the research. But I've never had a student come back to me and say, I remember the parts of this annelid, which is the scientific name for the worm, you know? And the thing is, well, we're just trying to show the students as much as possible, expose them to as much as possible so they know that these things are here on our earth, whether or not that is pertinent information for them to know, but it's still a good thing because they can write, they can read. They are just learning this knowledge that they might never have learned. So we're just trying to expose them to as much as humanly possible, right? Within reason. But that's all I had to show you. I hope you enjoyed the different explanations of the different works. I love explaining it. But if you want, there's a free resource hub down below. If you need anything else explained, you can email me at bethany@parsellanguage.com. And it's just a fun way to show the different works. So thank you for watching.